Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first welcome week at SCRA. And so this is an opportunity to get everyone excited about being members, as well as engaging in multiple initiatives that we have going. And so before we get started, one of the things I like to do at the start of opportunities of engagement with members is to share our community agreement, which was launched during our first virtual biennial as a way to set the stage for how we should communicate with each other in these settings. So as a community, we value and respect all members and commit to working together to ensure all members have equitable access to participating in dialogue. As a community, we value diversity, equity, inclusion, and commit to working together to ensure that our spaces of dialogue and learning are inclusive, anti-oppressive, and anti-racist. As a community, we acknowledge and value the importance of reflexivity and critical reflection in scholarship and practice, and commit to working together to promote anti-oppressive and anti-racist norms. So here's what we'll be discussing today. So just a little bit more information about Welcome Week. We will have a welcome from our president, Yvette Flores, who will share her vision and the current focus of SCRA. We'll go in depth about the overview of SCRA in terms of membership makeup and break down some of these membership groups that we have. We'll also discuss active councils and interest groups and go over a role comparison of SCRA. And finally, we'll conclude with some initiatives that you can get engaged with as a member. And so here's a little bit more information about our Welcome Week. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, that this is our first time being able to do something of this caliber. And so each day there'll be a different session that is shared twice. So this gives members the opportunity to participate, whether it's earlier or later, all Eastern Standard Time, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. And so this evening is our welcome session, which would feature myself and Yvette. And tomorrow you can learn more about our finances with our treasurer. On Wednesday, we'll talk about accessibility and outreach, and that will be led by Yadviga and Ashley, who Yadviga is our coordinator, administrative coordinator, and Ashley does a lot of engagement and connecting with members through communitypsychology.com. And on Thursday is an opportunity for our interest groups, councils, and regional and students to share updates on the initiatives that are going on within SCRA. And now I will pass it over to our president.
Thank you very much, Amber. And it's been my privilege to serve as your president for the past year, continuing into this fiscal year. And first, I would like to acknowledge that I am currently in Ohlone territory in the city of Berkeley. I'm honored and grateful that I could live on these sacred lands. I think important aspects of who I am that I want to share with you are my various statuses and my positionality as an immigrant, cisgender, heterosexual, light-skinned, multiracial woman. My roles include being an academic and a practitioner and an activist for many, many years, and probably more salient at this particular point in my life, being a mother, a grandmother, and a mentor to many students. My vision as your president is to embody the values of our society by promoting social justice in my pedagogy, research, and practice, and the multiple roles that I inhabit. And as president, my vision and my purpose is to continue the work of past leadership to enact the promise that was made in the response of the call to action on anti-Blackness, to support the work of councils, interest groups, and members, to support early career psychologists and graduate students. And one of the ways in which I think it's critical to do this is by promoting leadership opportunities. I think it's critical that we prepare the next generation of leaders of our society and out there in the world as well As a very young woman, I stepped into leadership positions without really having any training. I learned on the job. I think it would have been far easier had I had some opportunities to prepare. Our current focus, as I shared in my presidential address at APA a couple of weeks ago, has been in the past year and continuing into the present to improve our operational efficiencies and to avoid operating in crisis mode, to provide more equitable funding of projects and to really examine how we fund and to encourage the councils and interest groups to apply for funds, to create opportunities for members to provide feedback on our initiatives. And this is an example of those opportunities that our executive director has created, to provide greater transparency in how we make decisions as officers and members of the executive committee. On a very practical and tangible level, our focus this year is to work on developing, updating, revising our strategic plan, our theory of change, to review and update our bylaws and our policies and practices to make sure that these respond to the call to action, as well as are congruent and consistent and honor the values of our society. And now I pass it over back to Dr. Kelly.
Thank you. And so now we will just discuss an overview of SCRA in terms of what is the actual structure in its existing form. And so we are comprised of members that are dedicated to the society. And when that breaks down, that looks at from perspective of an administrative team and an executive committee. And so our administrative team consists of myself as executive director, Yadviga, our administrative coordinator, and Ashley, our outreach communication specialist. Our executive committee consists of officers as well as council chairs and representatives that serve in the capacity for the roles to which they're serving, as well as reflecting the councils that they are affiliated with. Some of the roles are elected in terms of being a part of an official ballot. Others may be a volunteer base in terms of someone just volunteering to serve in that role. Also note, for the role of APA Council Rep, you will only see that role in an election ballot if you're an APA member. And for the student rep role, that is a separate ballot administered by SCRA, and it only includes students in terms of eligibility for voting. As of June 30th, we have a total of 837 members, and this includes US and internationally based. And so when we look at each of our membership types, one moment, please. We have our US members, our student members that consist of graduate students in psychology or related disciplines. We have our undergraduate members. This includes international members, and this can be anyone in a current undergraduate study, and it can be recent within a year of graduating who have not entered graduate school. We have international members, and specifically not, which are referred to as non-US based. Our early career, which includes international membership as well. We have our senior members, must be 65 or older, retired, and a member of SCRA for 20 years. We also have the option for a new graduate gift, as well as a lifetime member. And so what you will notice with each of these groups is that we have a majority of US based, as well as student representation. Our regional network coordinator, Mashoud, is being very intentional about engaging more with our international members. And so they can be not only engaged more in SCRA, but connected more in SCRA in terms of initiatives and sharing the initiatives that they are working on. Our student members, there are multiple opportunities for students to be engaged within SCRA, ranging from participating in a council or interest group, but also being able to lead in any of the interest groups and chairs opportunities. We also have our student rep roles, which is a 2-year role for students to engage in. We have various support mechanisms for early careers. However, that is a space that we'd like to work on in terms of, as an organization, expanding that to include early careers in various settings, as well as being inclusive of the sort of work that people are doing. And so just making sure that people are supported as early careers. One of the things that we find is that a lot of people are in multiple divisions of APA, as well as other organizations too that share their interests. And we encourage that. As a field, we embody diversity. And so we hope that our members are also sharing their gifts in other spaces as well. So the following is a list of active councils and interest groups. And so here's some things to just be aware of. In terms of our councils and interest groups, what are the differences? And so with the council, essentially a council is a collective group of individuals that share an interest, and they have a seat on the executive committee. They've gone through the process in order for that to happen. Interest groups are similar in that it's a group of members that have a specific interest on a particular topic. However, they do not have a seat on the executive committee. And so one of the things with interest groups, they vary over time because essentially members have an interest in that topic, and a group may not be active, just it can be for various reasons, whether not having a leadership or the topic just really not being of interest to members in terms of engagement. And so the following is a list of active councils and interest groups that have hosted something within the past year and hosting a meeting, a session, things of that nature, essentially an opportunity for members to engage. And so our councils include our Council on Education, our Council on Cultural, Ethnic, and Racial Affairs, Practice Council, Public Policy and Research. Our interest groups include community psychology practice in undergraduate settings, early career, environment and justice, immigrant justice, indigenous, rural school engagement, self-help, mutual aid and peer support, and U.S. reparations. So I hope that you can join our future session on Thursday, which some representatives from the councils and interest groups will be present to share more about the initiatives that they have going on. I don't want to get into much detail on some of their projects because they can better present the work that they're doing, but I hope that you can return on Thursday to learn more about those things. Now, the following are additional interest groups that we have on our website, and you may see in terms of an option when you are signing up for membership: aging, community health, criminal justice, critical community psychology, disability, gender and justice, LGBT, organizational studies, prevention and promotion. And so essentially, these are groups that essentially have been interest groups that have been formed, but currently do not have leadership or haven't engaged in any meetings in quite some time. And so one thing you may also notice is that for one of the groups, LGBT, is the name currently does not represent the spectrum. And so that has to do with, in order to change your name as an interest group, it requires a vote of the membership of that group. And so once the group is engaged and members can vote to change that name to expand to include IA plus to that. And so if you have any interest in any of these groups, either the ones that are active or the ones that need a little bit more support and energy behind them, please feel free to engage. You can be a chair, and you can also use a co-chair model. That is what we have been encouraging of our interest groups and councils, in which two people take the chair role. Before I transitioned into this role, I was the public policy co-chair, and having that model where it was a 3-year role allowed me not only to just learn about being a co-chair, but it also allowed the sort of tasks to be divvied up between myself and my co-chair. And so it wasn't necessarily something that was, oh my gosh, this is so much to take on, because we shared those responsibilities. And so the following is a comparison of the different roles and engagement opportunities within SCRAW. Now, the following document is an evolving document. And the reason why I say that is that there will be multiple versions of this over the course of the year, specifically in the areas of really getting membership engagement and feedback in a way that allows us all to come together to have a cohesive and collective understanding of how roles and responsibilities. And this may also evolve to being more engagement initiatives on here, or even more categories. But the existing framework that we have, that we're working from, looks at the executive committee, officers, councils, interest groups, executive director, and multiple engagement formats, where an individual may take the lead, or a collective group may provide input, and then everyone sharing sort of equal responsibility in carrying out that engagement. And so let's talk about budget decisions. And you'll learn more about budget decisions tomorrow with our treasurer. But essentially, everyone can apply to receive funds, interest groups, councils, the administrative team. And those proposals are reviewed. And the officers take the lead because they look at it to propose a recommended budget for the executive committee to review. And so once that recommended budget has been created, it is then submitted to the executive committee to provide feedback and to ultimately vote on the final budget. Now, councils and interest groups and executive director are not a part of the final decision. However, and councils, since they have a representative on the executive committee, that representative would be participating in the budget process. For interest groups are not represented on the executive committee. And as executive director, I do not have voting rights on the executive committee. In terms of implementing organizational policy, that is everyone's role. We have various practices and policies, and it's important that everyone reviews those, are aware, and making sure that they're fully implemented. When it comes to updating membership on SCRAW governance and policies, how that usually would take place is that communication comes from the officers, but specifically our president. And our president will send that, whether it's an email, may decide to host office hours, or also communicating things through the TCP. Councils are responsible in terms of just making sure that as a council that they're sharing these things as well. And as executive director, I traditionally provide feedback on that communication that is going out. When it comes to implementing programming, this is a very interesting engagement category because you also have some interesting nuances. So for example, there are some roles that have a specific programming attached to it. So some of those include things like the student rep, member at large. Also, you may have the regional network coordinator, which are all executive committee roles. Officers may engage in programming in terms of maybe having some engagement with the council or an interest group, for example. And the executive director engages in this as well. You're participating in Welcome Week, which essentially is a program that is being implemented by the ED. When it comes to organizational culture, it's everyone's roles and responsibility to engage and participate in that. In reference to engaging with membership, primarily as the executive director, I take the lead in that. However, everyone that is being present in spaces, you're engaging with members in some capacity. And so it's important that that engagement happens, but it also is inclusive and aligns with our values and our culture. So as I mentioned, this is an evolving document because there are some other things that could definitely be included, and there will be future opportunities for members to provide feedback. But I hope that this version gives you some insight and guidance into where we are. And it will be incorporated in other initiatives that we are working on, specifically the strategic plan. All right, so here are some initiatives that we have going on. So we are redesigning our website. Oh, I got a little happy there. I got so happy, I clicked the slide forward. This is one of the things that I probably have gotten the most feedback from members in terms of wanting a new one. And so we've had an engaged committee that has worked on putting out the RFP and reviewing proposals. We received a total of 18 proposals, and also getting us to the space where we are in the process of interviewing our final vendors, and we hope to be able to make a final decision in the upcoming weeks so we can begin to redesign the website. One of the things to be mindful of, and this was included in the RFP, is that the vendor had to incorporate 2 opportunities for member feedback to be included. And so when those opportunities come, hope to see as many members providing feedback on the new website direction. Member Mondays is an initiative we launched about a year ago, but we didn't get a lot of engagement and responses. And so we're going to try again, right? If at first you don't succeed, try again, right? And so this is a strategy for highlighting the work of our members on our social media platform. So simply just completing a red cap survey. And what we'll do is create a social media alert on Monday to just highlight what you're doing. You can nominate others or even nominate yourself, or if you're with a specific group like an initiative group or council or university or any other organizational affiliation that is a member and you want to highlight people, please do that. It's a way for us to get to know who our members are, what the work that people are doing in the community, and it's a chance to just make some membership connections. We are having our first in-person and virtual conference next summer, woohoo, in Atlanta, being hosted by Morehouse College. And so over the next few weeks, you'll see some announcements in terms of the call for proposals, and we hope that you're able to participate, whether it's in person or virtual. Hope to see as many as we can in person because we have not seen each other. It will be 2019 was the last in-person biennial conference. And so hope that as many of you can make it and be engaged, and look forward to seeing the work that you share at the biennial. And so now this will be our opportunity to just dialogue with each other, share any feedback, ask any questions. And this concludes our recording. Thank you for those that are watching or that have joined.